Hey guys, it's Gary Wong with GaryWongRealty.com again. Today, here I am with my guest and friend, Bai Jiang. He's a local real estate investor as well as a mortgage broker and the founder of the largest Lower Mainland real estate investor focused meetup group called Earning Passive Income Through Real Estate. So today we're going to talk about how the property transfer tax policy changes in the past couple of weeks has affected the Vancouver real estate market. So I'm going to talk about the real estate aspect in terms of people have been asking me, oh, how is it affecting the market? Is it making Vancouver much more affordable? No, unfortunately, it's not making it much more affordable. Some people had maybe the misconception that the market was going to be cheaper by 15% or 20% or 30%, and then people thought there was a correction, the media headlines started blasting out there. But in my perspective, the market is slower because it's not spring, it's definitely summer. Summer is definitely historically a slower time of the year. Having the implementation of the policy has definitely further slowed down the market. Has it slowed it down another 15%? I don't really think so. Have we seen indications of slowdown? Yes, we have. Especially in the first week or two of implementation, there was a lot of frenzy, a lot of hesitation. They're going to tank the market, and a lot of people were hesitant to buy or sell. But then as time went by, people have their lives to live. People need to upsize, downsize. People get divorced and then they need to sell. People die and then they have to sell the house and estates and all that stuff. So like Bai mentioned earlier, demand and supply, there's just not enough supply out there. So with the increase in policy, actually our company has talked about it in the news saying that some of the developers that we have connections with have hesitated to buy land to develop multifamily. So in that sense, it's actually hindering some developers from developing land and creating supply. Yeah. So is it actually hurting local buyers? Somewhat. For example, a foreign buyer, we have actual cases where a foreign buyer has purchased a local homeowner's home, deposit, and it's firm sale. And then the local homeowner then goes out and buys their home, but then the foreign buyer finds out about this policy and decides to walk on the deal. The local homeowner then might have to default on their purchase, and then they might get stuck with two properties, two mortgages. Like there's a lot of things going on, nothing's set in stone right now. There are a lot of negotiations back and forth, but there are lawsuits coming from some individuals. And then the interesting thing is on the news, they talk about this policy has violated NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, affecting the Americans and the Mexicans. Well, the interesting thing is that under the North American Free Trade Agreement, the Americans and Mexicans can actually pay the 15% tax and then file to the tribunal, and then they can get that 15% reimbursed to them through the federal government. So if they pay the 15% to the provincial government, but they get reimbursed by the federal government, it's only a matter of time before the federal government comes in and steps in and says, no more, right? Some people say, oh, has there been no effect? No, that's not true as well. There is maybe a couple percent in terms of pricing. I had a case where I was supposed to get 3 offers on my listing, but I ended up getting 1 listing. But in the end, I still sold the property, and I sold it for pretty much within market value. Not as high as we anticipated, but still within 1 or 2%. So I don't really see a long-term effect damage. I do feel that it is a mistake to make it retroactive. It is a bit unjust, as many people have said it out there, where it's just pulling the carpet under someone's feet and no warning, and it does discourage or hinder foreign companies and foreign investors from wanting to invest in British Columbia, because policies like this, if they keep getting implemented without notice, and it would discourage foreign investment, definitely. What do you think, Bai?
I agree with your points. I mean, it leaves a very bad taste and the amounts of foreign investors, and they're knowing what to be implemented once they make the purchase. And there was, if you look at the transactions that were leading up to August 2nd, the land titles office had like record highs on Thursday and the Friday before the long weekend in terms of number of closings that took place. Their systems were heavily overloaded based on just the need to try and save 15%. So
yeah, I heard notaries and lawyers were charging $10,000 just to. So it wasn't necessarily benefiting the public in terms of affordability.
Yeah,
maybe gave some lawyers some early bonuses.
Technically, when you look at that 15%, from a mortgage perspective, when you look at that 15%, that closing cost needs to have a history. So if somebody needed to come up with $300,000, all of a sudden, like to close right away, and that history was not shown as proof, then technically it hasn't met all the lender's conditions. So I don't know to what extent the lenders went back and re-verified everything, especially on a tight timeline to get everything done and closed off.
Yeah. Well, definitely. So if you have any further questions for me or Bai, please feel free to contact us. Our contact information is down below. Once again, thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment below. Until next time, God bless you. Thanks guys for watching my video. Please subscribe and share with your friends. Email me if you have any more questions. Thank you.